Hey guys, okay, so let's talk about last night's episode of Scandal. Okay, let's start right from the beginning. So we start off the episode with Jake in Olivia's apartment, and he's obviously moving his suitcase out, and she's asking him if he thinks it's safe to go back to his apartment, and he's like, "Look, it doesn't matter where I am. B613 is going to find me no matter where I am," and he basically says, "I'm not the one who wants to leave. You're the one who's making me leave," and she is just like she doesn't want her dad to know that Jake is actually staying there anymore. Like she's just concerned all around. She's scared. She's like, what do you want me to do? And he's like, listen, Olivia, we need to take this man down. He is evil. And he starts to explain a little bit of what Rowan did to him when he was in the hole. And, he would beat him up, he would fix his wounds, and he would suture him back up, and he'd give him like a shot of penicillin and shove him back in the hole. And he basically says to Olivia, well, he literally says, your father will slit your throat and drink your blood if it serves the Republic. And she's got this look on her face like, this is my dad you're talking about. And he's like, yeah, I know. He's crazy. So that is like the first 3 minutes off the top of this episode. And it's great. So obviously, Olivia wants nothing to do with this information that like, well, basically she doesn't want to get in to any sort of drama with her dad. She doesn't want to try to take him down. She just wants to sort of be like the good daughter who's going to go to Sunday dinners with him and leave it at that. And she doesn't want to know any drama that's happened between Jake and B613, none of it. So she basically dismisses Jake and tells him, you got to go. So he leaves. And, we the episode starts with Harrison calling Olivia. I mean, after Jake leaves, but Harrison calls Olivia and he's like, "Listen, Olivia, we have a client," and he's like dancing, and you can see that he's excited because clearly Olivia's reputation has been damaged. And after the opening episodes when we found out that, or when the world found out that Olivia was potentially the mistress of the president, a lot of her clients basically gave her the peace sign and we're like, we're done with you. And so they've been sort of like just dying for a client. And so Harrison's reaction to when he tells Olivia that they have a client was absolutely adorable. And he starts dancing in the office, and then he starts calling all of his other people. And while this is going on, Huck is at his AA meeting, which is basically his code word for I'm addicted to killing people. And he's telling them that he's fallen off the wagon, that he didn't actually take the drink, the bottle was put in his hands, and he really didn't have a choice. And he's referring to last week's episode when Rowan basically said, listen, I've got something for you in that trailer, and I think you're going to want to deal with it. And Huck goes and he kills him, and he has no idea who he is, because we find this out later during the episode that Huck actually didn't really know who he was. He just know that he was somebody that needed to die, and Huck was pretty cool with doing it because Huck's been turned into a trained killer, and he was missing that. And I think if you remember at the beginning of season 2, Huck started going to these AA meetings, and we quickly found out that he's talking about whiskey, about being addicted to whiskey, but really it's being addicted to killing people. And it's really sad. And in that meeting, all of a sudden you hear this phone ringing, and Quinn is in the corner because she's been following Huck, and Huck doesn't realize this, but he obviously hears the phone ring, and he looks over and he's got this look of like, what you doing here? Because this is obviously personal for me, and he's really upset that she's been following, and she's all like, oh gosh, my phone's going off. And anyway, so they all get back to the office, and they have a client, and it's a sexting scandal. So it's one of those ripped from the headlines that we had with Anthony Weiner and Anthony Weiner, what kind of a name is that? Anyways, so we have this new sexting scandal that the Gladiators are going to handle this week. And it was actually a pretty decent case. Obviously this guy's obsessed with texting and sexting, and he's didn't do it just once, but this case takes on a twist because he's being accused of murdering the girl who claimed that he was sexting him. And it turns out that he was innocent, but his wife actually was the one who did it. So that was a nice little twist at the end because Olivia wasn't on her radar. Like she wasn't on Olivia's radar. So, obviously Olivia's been going through quite a bit these days, and, her gut's not speaking to her quite as well as it once did. And, but I think we can all understand she's got a lot going on. So that was basically the case of the week. And I just wanted to sort of get that out of the way really quickly because, with Scandal, it always kind of interjects, comes back into the storyline. But I think what we really want to talk about here is what's going on with this Operation Remington, which sort of we got a little bit more information on this week, and it was good. And outside of the Remington scandal, we had Melly, which she was in true form this week, and so what we have, okay, so outside of the case of the week, we also got a glimpse of who a new Democratic runner could be. And that was played by Lisa Kudrow from Friends. And it turns out that she is running, and I guess she's starting to do, I guess this is the primary time when all these other candidates are coming out on the Democratic side, and, they're becoming a face so that everybody can, root for them and try to they can go into oh my gosh, why am I saying this wrong? So you've got the primary, and then you have the general election, and so she starts, obviously calling out the president on all of his shenanigans, and like we don't want a president like this. We need somebody who's really here for the people. And of course Melly makes an offhand comment, not realizing that the mic is still on, and it blows up in her face. And this obviously gives the candidate, played by Lisa Kudrow, a little bit more airtime, and she's becoming like this face that everybody's connecting with. And Cyrus is basically saying, listen, if we lose the female voters, we're in big trouble. So we cannot afford to push people from our team over to her side. You know what I mean? And even though she's a Democrat and he's a Republican, like basically they're just saying if it comes down to being head to head, Fitz versus her, then we're going to be in real trouble because we need the female voters. So I thought it was a nice little part on Melly's, like some stuff for Melly to do outside of the main storyline that was going on. And so so now talking about Operation Remington, we basically are getting like little tidbits here and there. And there was a really great scene where Jake goes up to Huck in the parking lot, and he's basically, and they both got their guns drawn, and they're basically saying, listen, Rowan screwed you, Rowan screwed me, we need to work together and screw Rowan, basically. And Huck's like, I'm having no part of this. He's like, basically, command is in command, and there's nothing we can do about it. Be done with it. And obviously Jake's not very pleased with that response, but Jake isn't giving up. There's another scene where Cyrus finds out that a man was killed, and I believe his name was Peter, and he was the one who stormed the White House in last week's episode. And obviously, so Cyrus is putting two and two together. He obviously knows that he was part of Operation Remington, and so he wants to meet with Rowan, and he's like what's going on here? And so they're having a conversation, and Jake is sitting on a bench like maybe 10 feet away, and he's got a microphone set up to try to listen to the conversation. And it's not very clear because there's all these like school kids running around and just, having fun. And so he can't really hear it. But what I love is that Jake is just not giving up. He is like, I am going to take this man down. And so he's having this conversation with Cyrus, and he doesn't realize that Jake is, listening over on the bench. But, the conversation is not very clear, but you can hear like tidbits here and there. So then later on in the episode, Jake goes to Olivia's house again after she's already been like, listen, dude, I want nothing to do with you. And it was actually really seen. It was really sad earlier. I forgot to mention that, basically when Olivia was telling Jake he needs to go, she's like, I want nothing to do with B16. I don't even want to know that, like, I'm going to forget that you even exist. And it was, like, really sad because obviously Jake is, has feelings for Olivia, and she has feelings for him. But she's just trying to, like, stay out of it. She's trying, I guess, be Switzerland. I don't know. She's just trying to have nothing to do with it. And, so when he comes back to her house a second time, she's like, listen, Jake, you need to go. And then all of a sudden you hear this voice, and it's Huck's, and Jake steps aside, and Huck is standing there, and she realizes, okay, obviously I need to hear this. So, they come in, and she's basically like, what is all of this? And she can't really decipher the conversation that was said between Cyrus and her father, and then during the episode, Huck also starts to realize who the person is that he killed. That he was, obviously somebody important, because the president goes to a funeral, and to his funeral, and he realizes, okay, this is not good. And then they find out that the person that they killed had like a flight plan tattooed on the side of his body, and Jake basically says, listen, the guy that Rowan had kill was somebody that was part of this Operation Remington, and I was a part of that. And it happened back in Iraq during the first Gulf War, and they were in Iran, and it was a mission, and there were 5 people on the ground, and Jake was one of them, and there was a plane that was gonna, I guess, come to rescue them, and we find out that the president was flying that plane. And so Olivia is asking, so then why did it look like Peter was flying this plane? And he's like, well, that's the questions, and obviously that is one of the reasons why Rowan wanted him dead. So obviously the plot thickens now, and so Huck leaves, and then we got a scene with Olivia and Jake alone in the apartment, and she's basically guzzling down a glass of wine. And we all know wine is not supposed to be guzzled. It's not beer. You're supposed to sip it nice and slow, enjoy every taste. And so Jake is like, "Are you okay?" And she's just like, she basically buries her face in her hands, and she's just like, I'm scared. Like, I have no idea what is going on, and I'm terrified. And Jake is all sweet, and he's like, come here, put your head down. And they have a nice little moment, and then they break out into some nice little kissing. And then the phone rings, and of course, it's the president. And Olivia, of course, takes the phone call. And, so Jake's kind of like, dude, step off. So they're talking, and Olivia's like, what's wrong? You sound weird. And he's just basically like, I can't really tell you how I'm feeling right now, because obviously he's like, a lot is weighing on him. He saw the article in the paper about Peter being killed or dying or committing suicide, and then he arranges for him to have a proper burial because he was a soldier. And he even says he was a hero. And, they do the whole ceremony, and they've got like all the men in uniform, and they shoot off their rifles. Like, it was a really sweet scene, and Nina Simone was playing in the back. Like, it was just a really nice scene. And, so the president really gave him the respect that he deserved as a soldier. And, so, a lot has been weighing on Fitz, but we haven't heard anything from him, so we don't really know what it is that's going on with him emotionally. And so then he's on the phone with Olivia, and he's in his limousine, and we usually don't see him in his car, so he's obviously going somewhere. And so then all of a sudden, like, they're talking, and Jake basically is like, do you want more wine? So he says it loud enough where obviously Fitz can hear him in the background, and he's like, oh, you've got company. And she's like, it's okay, we can talk. And he's all like, no, you gotta go. And he hangs up the phone, and he's got like this somber look on his face, and and then the door opens, and it's Tom, and he's like, we're here. So he gets out, and the president's doing his walk down like this hallway, and people are looking, are walking towards him, and they're looking like, that's the president. And he's like walking, and then all of a sudden he opens the door and into Rowan's office, and Rowan's like, what is this about? And then Fitz is like, this is a long overdue meeting, obviously, that they need to have. So they're aware of who each other is, and so it's going to be interesting, obviously. And then obviously the scandal title comes up, so it's like, no, we want more. So obviously next week's episode will hopefully pick up right where it left off, and we'll have a really good conversation between the president and Rowan's dad and Olivia's dad, Rowan. So that is, again, like, the show is just, it's it ties up everything really well. It's giving us kernels of information, but not where we're just kind of like, I don't get it. Why aren't you giving me more? Like they're doing it, it's all piecing together well. And obviously now we're going to be heading into episode 5, and I'm assuming that we're going to get a lot of information in this next episode, which is going to be great. And we'll see who has the biggest cojones between the two of them, and I have a feeling that it's going to be Rowan, because Papa Pope don't play. So I'm very excited about next week's episode. I'm, again, very excited the way that the season has been going so far. There hasn't been a dull episode. The case of the week was good. We started to get some introductions into this possible threat that could be coming towards Fitz's reelection. And Quinn is just, Huck basically says to her, stop following me, stop wanting to know what it's like to kill. Like, you need to stop being so curious, because one day you're going to cross that line and then there's no turning back. And Quinn is just like, she is just hungry for it, and it's creepy, and it's obviously like, Huck can't be concerned with her right now. He's got a lot going on, but he's warning her, do not go down this path, because once you do, there's no turning back. And so it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with Quinn, because she is just like, she's like a kid in a candy store, and she just can't stop. And then we also got some, with Abby, her and David Rosen got back together, which was really cute. And I like how they're they're spunking up Abby this season, because for a long time I was like, oh my god, her hair is so drab, like she's got this long pretty hair, and it was just like, bleh. And now they've they've cut it, and they've like zhuzhed it up some, and they've got her wearing like this sassy makeup. And I think that for me, this is helping with her look. I was never really impressed with how she looked, and I'm liking that they're giving her a little bit more pizzazz. Unfortunately, Harrison, outside of his cute little dancing off the top of the hour, we didn't really get much from him. And again, like I said in my review last time, like I feel like his character is like the most neglected, and he's sadly becoming just like ornamental. Like he's just not doing much, and it's not his fault. Obviously, the writers just need to start giving him some juicy storylines, because it's not happening at this point. And I feel like he could easily be killed off and nobody would really care, because we haven't given him much of a storyline. We don't really know any of his backstory, and that's sad, because I think he's a good character on the show. He just needs to be developed more. So just, and Cyrus this episode, he was a little bit more quiet, but you could see like he's obviously got his mind set on trying to destroy this new Democratic opponent. We found out that she had a baby when she was 15. So, Cyrus is all gung-ho about that. And obviously he's trying to keep the president in line, and he has this really great conversation with him. And he's just like, listen, you need to keep the past in the past and leave it there, because you don't want anything that can derail your reelection, and you just need to let it go. And it was a good scene that they had, because they haven't really had too many heart-to-hearts in the last little bit. Cyrus and Fitz had a bit of a falling out in season 2, so he slowly made his way back up, and I think that the president is trusting him more, and so that was a good conversation that they had. And so, again, this episode gets 2 big thumbs up for me. It was on point. It was on fire. It wasn't like, whoa, 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 but it was, it was packed full of good information, and it seamlessly tied throughout the episode. So, Scandal for me can do no wrong, and I'm enjoying it. Thank you for coming and watching my review, and I'll see you next week. Bye.